Your faith has everything to do with everyday life. And God wants you to have a more joyful life. That's what we dive into on our show, The Chris Stefanik Show. Check it out. Give me a crash course here. Someone shows up at your door at the Lanteri Center. Google it, Lanteri Center, great place for retreats, for discernment. They want to figure out what God wants for their life. They have a big decision in front of them. Or they're thinking about priesthood versus marriage, and a girl's asking them out on a date. It's like, I got to decide a direction, at least to discern my next steps, right? I don't have 30 days. Ignatius would have 30-day retreats he would do, which if there's anything I envy my celibate brothers and sisters for, boy, that's awesome. I might not have an 8-day. Let's say I have a 3-day or 10 minutes left of the show. Well, give me the crash course in those big decisions and how to hear God.
One parenthesis first.
Yeah.
It is possible to make the entire 30-day retreat without ever leaving home.
Okay.
So that what a person does is that he commits to an hour of prayer every day, some kind of examining and journaling of that, and a weekly meeting with the director. Many people do it. It's a lovely way to make
Beautiful.
You can make the full retreat or any part of it in those circumstances. Oh, close.
I'm signing up. I'm signing up for that. How do I sign up for that, honestly?
Call the Lanteri Center.
Lanteri, okay.
Yeah. All you need is somebody who's competent to guide it,
Okay.
and you can do it. Many people do it. So the person is facing an important discernment. What do I do? Yeah. Well, if the person is coming to speak with a priest, he's doing the first thing right. I would say he or she is doing the first thing right. And that is essentially to reach out to the church for the help of the church's rich tradition on how to discern. You don't want to be alone with it if it's an important discernment. So I'd say that's the first thing. Look for somebody who can help you. Now, if it's a vocational discernment, any significant thing like this, you really don't want to do that alone. And then what that person is going to help you to do is to be praying. You've got to be praying. And as you're praying, here's what Ignatius came to see. If you pray frequently, regularly, faithfully, and secondly, if you are attentive to what's going on in your heart and your thoughts as you're praying, you can come to see where God's will is in the choice. So what the guide...
Be attentive to what's happening inside of you while you pray.
Exactly. Let's go back to Ignatius' own experience, how all this got started.
Yeah.
So he has been very far from God until the age of 30. It's an Augustine story. And then he's wounded in battle, and he has a long...
By cannonball, right?
Cannonball shatters his right leg. There are 3 surgeries, and after the 3rd surgery, he has 5 more months before he can use his leg.
Wow.
So he asks for reading. He has in mind the sort of novels of chivalry and romance and so forth that he was used to. But his sister-in-law gives him the only book she has. One is a life of meditations on the life of Christ, and the other a volume with lives of the saints. Ignatius begins, somewhat unwillingly, but he begins to read. 2 things start to happen. He spends hours and hours, he says sometimes up to 2, 3, 4 hours, exploring, pondering in his heart how he's going to win the heart of a woman. He never names her. In all likelihood, this was the Catherine, the younger daughter, younger sister of the King of Spain. Ignatius might have seen her on a couple of occasions earlier.
So wildly unrealistic.
Completely, because he's never even going to have access to meet her. Yeah. But he gets thoroughly engaged in it, there's energy in it, and hours get spent like this. Now he's reading about Saints Dominic, Francis, another kind of heroism. Now he's starting to spend hours thinking about, well, what if I were to pursue that way? And what he notices finally is this. Both sets of thoughts, while I'm actually thinking about them, let's call it the worldly project and the holy project, they're both engaging. They awaken energy and enthusiasm, but he now notices that after he sets them aside and goes on with the day in the one case and the other, the first set of thoughts about the worldly pursuit leave him empty, unhappy. His heart isn't nourished. There's some trouble there. Whereas when he's been thinking about living like the saints and goes on with the day, his heart always remains happy and content. Wow. And once he sees this, it becomes clear to him that that first set of thoughts, which are engaging but leave him empty, that's not where God's leading. The other is. And that's the origin of his whole teaching on discernment. By paying attention to what's going on in our hearts and the related thoughts, we can see where God is and where God's leading.
Wow.
And the 14 rules equip us to do that.
Wow. It's kind of simple, right? It reminds me of the Bruce Lee quote. He said, before studying martial arts, a punch was just a punch. A kick was just a kick. And then it became this intricate art. And after doing it 10,000 hours, a punch is just a punch again.
Yeah. Well, the reason why this speaks so much to people is because Ignatius is not adding anything to the spiritual life. We're all going through these attractions and resistances on the level of the heart. Thoughts, should I do this? Maybe I may just, all of this is going on. But we don't have a way to understand it. We don't even have a vocabulary for it. So when Ignatius steps in there and says, look, this is what's been happening, and this is how you can know what's of God and not of God, and this is what you should do and shouldn't do in that situation, it's a liberation for people because, oh, that's what's been going on. Now I see it.
Man, wasn't that awesome? Be sure to smash the subscribe button. Hit, smash, demolish the subscribe button, however you want to say it, and share it with everybody you know. I get so much out of these conversations. I know you always will too. So come join me in this journey to life to the full, and we'll see you in the next video.